Hi everyone, Lar from Complete Test Success here, and today's live stream is a Q&A, so it's completely open to all of you. Any questions you have about the Ielts test, let me know and I'll answer them. Or alternatively, what you can do is describe any issues that you're having or any obstacles that you're facing, and I'll have advice for you on that as well. So that's it. Very, very straightforward today. You just tell me what you need and I will give you the information that you're looking for. Okay. Hi, Bakar. I don't have any questions, sir. I've done it all with the assistance of your lectures as well. Love from me. Great. It sounds like you're in a good situation. You have everything sorted. Good man, Bakar. Thanks for the message. This might be a very short Q&A live stream if you're all good already. But if not, go ahead. Let me know what you need. Hey, Blessing. Good to see you here again. Morning to you. While I'm waiting, a bit slow this morning. While I'm waiting, I can share another resource with you. These are my free live feedback lessons. These are my free group classes, and I conduct those on Zoom. So if you just click on that link and sign up, you will see a schedule for my free live feedback lessons. Next to the schedule, you'll see the links. You just click the links at the appropriate time, and then you will be able to join my Zoom lessons. And we have those, I have those every week. And then each week we cover a different part of the IELTS test. So we go through full reading, writing, listening, speaking, general training, academic, task 1, task 2, cover everything. Hey, Florence, I'm very good. Thanks for asking. Enjoy English learning. Good to see you back here. It's afternoon where you are. Very good, Tanya. Good to see you here again. Hi, Mohammed from Bangladesh. Hi, Domenico. Morning from Ghana. Hey, Florence. Sir, is it necessary to maintain layout while writing in paper-based test? I'm assuming that you mean structure or paragraphs maybe, but the answer, whichever one you mean, the answer is yes. You definitely need to follow the structures. You definitely need to write in paragraphs. So I'm not 100% sure what your question is, but I'm quite sure the answer is yes. Doing good. Doing very good, actually. Thanks for asking. Hi, Kulwant. I hear you're on your way to Canada from Bangladesh. Very good. Your problem is writing task 1. Okay, so Florence, you'll have to be more specific than that. There are quite a few different problems that someone could have with task 1. Like for students on my course, the first thing they need to do is they need to learn how to write task 1 essays. After that, they attempt it. And typically what happens is as they attempt it, they make mistakes. When I see those mistakes, I can tell them what their problems are and how to improve. So at the moment, with this information, I cannot tell you how to improve because you're just saying task 1. But if you can say specifically a thing that you're finding difficult or a thing that you don't understand, then I'd be able to give you some more advice. Intelligent, hello. All good, Kulwant? Please help me with my grammatical mistakes in writing and speaking. Yep. I mean, your grammar's pretty good already, Kulwant. You made a mistake there. You forgot the preposition. Please help me with. How can I be confident when it comes to reading? Well, again, it's the source of what's making you not confident. Is it because your score is too low? Is it because you read too slowly? Is it because you can't understand a lot of things? Is it because, again, I would need more specific information. So you would need to understand why you're not confident. And that will allow you, with that information, that will allow you to improve. Wasana from Sri Lanka, welcome to the lesson, Wasana. Okay, Satija. In the Ielts listening test, they give us 10 minutes extra time to copy our results to the answer script. I want to know, is it effective to put our answers in the answer script directly while we are listening? No, you might as well use the time at the end. I would just write onto the question sheet. Because what you can do, like you'll have time at the end of each section, and it'll say you now have 30 seconds to check your answers. That's a really good opportunity to go back, and especially if you missed any, to try and guess any that you missed. But if you use that time, so like let's say it's section 2. If you have a few answers that you missed, it will be more difficult to guess at the end of the test in the last 10 minutes, when the last section is finished. Whereas if you guess at the end of section 2, the information will still be fresher in your mind. You'll have a better, a better chance of guessing correctly. I know ideally you don't want to have to guess, but using the time you've been given to check your answers is better. This only applies to the paper-based test, though. In the computer-based test, you're expected to fill out your answers directly, and you don't get 10 minutes at the end. So keep that in mind as well. If you're doing paper-based, or excuse me, if you're doing the computer-based test and you're expecting an extra 10 minutes, that might come as a shock. So only paper-based listening gets the additional 10 minutes. Human Sin from Nepal. Gopal Basnet. Very good. Welcome to the lesson, Gopal. How to express myself in explaining the bar chart and line graph. So if you're not able to express yourself, it's probably that you don't have the vocabulary you need to describe the things that you see in the chart. So it's very likely what you're describing is a vocabulary problem. There are, sample essays are a great way to improve your vocab, because, there's a limited amount of vocabulary that can be used for graphs and charts. So it's a really good opportunity to learn vocabulary that you will not definitely, but very likely be able to use in the test. The vocabulary for charts and graphs, those questions come up 75% in 75% of IELTS tests. So if you learn that vocab, there's a 75% chance that you can use it. And that's incredibly helpful. Maybe I'm wrong, but based on what you're saying, it does sound like a vocab problem. I also have lessons on my website going through vocab and grammar and cohesive devices for academic task 1. So take a look at my website. You see the header across the top. Just tick academic task 1, and you'll see a list of resources there that will help you with that. Kulwan, please help me with grammatical mistake. Sorry. Sir, please make videos about grammar. It's important for IELTS. It is important for IELTS. But what I'd say is there are fantastic grammar resources out there. Maybe at some point in the future, I'll start making grammar videos, but I feel like grammar is less urgent than, like the how to do the IELTS test. And Grammarly is a great app, and they have a blog, and on their blog they do a great job of explaining all the different grammar points. So I definitely recommend using Grammarly. The Cambridge Dictionary has a really good grammar section as well. So again, across the top, you'll see there's like a translation dictionary and an English dictionary, and then there's a grammar section. Click on the grammar section in the Cambridge Dictionary website. Very good. It's not as easy to understand as Grammarly. I look at Grammarly first, but Cambridge Dictionary is very detailed. It's very good. Okay, intelligent me. I'm good at writing and speaking. However, when it comes to reading, I lose some of my confidence. So again, what is it? What is it? What do you mean by confidence? Do you mean you're getting a low score? Is that what you mean? Just reply. Let me know if that's what you mean. Yeah. A lot of students speak quickly when they're nervous as well. I know I speak much more quickly when I'm nervous. So it could be that. But you'll really have to slow yourself down. You're not you don't need to speak very quickly for a good fluency score. And if you speak very quickly, it makes it more difficult to hear what you're saying. It can reduce your pronunciation score, especially if you have small pronunciation errors. They get magnified. If you speak very, very quickly, those errors become more significant because the listener doesn't have time to kind of figure out what you're saying. And that's especially true if you are making mistakes with sentence stress. So, if you're not stressing the correct words, or if you don't have any sentence stress, like a lot, depending on where you're from, Nepal is one of them, that like if you're hitting each word, you're stressing each word instead of, accurate sentence stress, then that can really magnify the issue when you speak very quickly. Rosanna, I'm struggling to solve multiple choice questions in reading as well as listening. Would you mind giving me some advice? So, I mean, the main focus would have to be on not the options, but the stem, the bit at the beginning. Sometimes the options can create distractions. They can make it more complicated. Whereas if you just focus on the information that they want and find that first, then when you have the information, you can match it with the correct option. That can make it easier. With listening, it tends to be that those questions are quite long, in that, they have a long stem and then long options. And very often why students find those difficult is that they didn't have time to prepare before the audio started. So what happens then is you haven't read the question, then the audio starts and you're trying to read the question and listen to the audio at the same time. That's too much. So inevitably you get lost. You're reading when you should be listening, or you're getting confused because there are some synonyms. So ideally what you would do is make sure that you've read every one of the stems first, and don't worry about reading the options. Just read the stems first. Make sure you've heard, make sure you know what you're listening for. If you have time to read the options as well, by all means read the options. But, instead of reading, like question 1, option A, B, C, D, question 2, option A, B, C, D. Don't read options A, B, C, D. Just read, question 1, question 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure you've read the actual questions, and that will make it easier to navigate when the audio begins. In IELTS Speaking Test Part 3, how to develop and conclude the answers. So there isn't any strict formula that you need to follow, but in general, the advice that teachers give students is, answer the question, explain your answer, give an example, or talk about the outcome. But it doesn't have to be that strict. Like if it was a normal conversation, how would you develop your answer further? So essentially what we want is more development, give more information about your answer. So there'll be some questions that you naturally just have more things to say. So just say whatever it is you want to say in the same way, if you're at work talking to a colleague about that topic, or if you're, hanging out with a friend talking about that topic, the way you would naturally just continue talking, giving more insight into how you feel or into what you know. But then sometimes there are questions, they'll just be about topics that you have no idea what they're about. So like, let's say, you have no interest in sport. So if the question's about sport, might be that you really don't have anything to say. And that's when those kind of like structures come in useful, is you're like, okay, answer the question, give an explanation, give an example. Like that type of a formula makes it easier when you don't really have anything to say. But in general, if you just answer the question and say whatever you know or whatever you feel or whatever you think about that topic, about that question, then that will be fine. So there isn't a strict structure that the IELTS examiner requires from you. So yeah, just develop it the way you naturally would, unless you have nothing to say. Nurazaman, how are you? From Bangladesh, welcome. How to understand academic reading since some of the passages are very confusing. What you're describing is a vocabulary issue. And you're not going to improve your score by doing more practice reading tests. You're only going to improve your score by improving your vocabulary. So it's something that a lot of students find challenging is, I want to improve my reading score, I should be doing reading tests. But if you've discovered, which you have, if you've discovered that the problem is your vocabulary level, it's time to stop doing reading tests and focus completely on improving your vocab. That's the only thing you can do. And eventually every single student will arrive at the place you are. So at the beginning, there will be problems with, the format, the types of questions, understanding what to do, figuring out the instructions. But once you're more comfortable with the way the test works, eventually you'll get to the place where it's your vocabulary is stopping you from getting a higher score. Hey, Domenico. I've been working hard on fluency these days, which has already shown some signs of improvement since my problem is not much related to vocab. Excellent. And you've kept working on it as well. Brilliant. Great to hear. Thanks for the update, Domenico. Florence, I have a friend who's a nurse and prefer healthcare job. Which type of exams should she go for? I don't give advice on that type of thing because I'm not very well up on, the ins and outs of how that works. So you'd really want to, contact the health board where you want to work, or agents who would organize those jobs. I've helped a lot of nurses go to the UK recently. At the moment, they only need 6.5 in writing, 7 in each other band and 6.5 in writing. So they've made it a bit easier. But again, that could have changed, or it might change again soon. So I'm not well up on the requirements of different institutes and immigration offices. So, when a student comes to me, I'll tell them, find out exactly what score you need, and then I'll help them get that score. But I don't want to give advice on, what scores you need or what exam you should do, because I don't know, and I would have to guess, and then I give you the wrong information, and I'm not going to do that. So you would need to contact, whoever would be in charge, whoever the relevant authorities would be on that. Thashias, hello, sir. How can I generate ideas, different aspects of advantages or disadvantages of a subject? I think the bigger problem for students is they don't know how to remove irrelevant ideas, and they don't know how to remove vague ideas. I would focus more on how to remove ideas you shouldn't have. And then to help you generate ideas, you need to just practice more. What a lot of students do is they'll go and they'll do some research on the internet. Like, I can't think of ideas, and they go researching online. But that's not useful at all. That's no use. You're finding other people's ideas. That's not the skill that you need. What you need is to come up with your own ideas. Make sure they're relevant, make sure they're specific. So practice doing it. Just spend a lot of time. And you don't need to write full essays. You just need to write essay plans. So, like let's say it takes you 40 minutes to write an essay, but it only takes 5 minutes to write an essay plan. So you could write 8 essay plans in the time that you would write one essay. And if you're trying to improve your idea generation, that comes from writing essay plans. So just, go onto Google, find a bunch of task 2 questions, and then just plan. And the most important thing is make sure you're analyzing your ideas and you're taking out any ideas that are irrelevant or any ideas that are vague. So here, I'm struggling to generate ideas, making stories for writing task 1. Yeah, writing task 1 is more like creative writing. It's more like what we would have been given in school. Just like, here's an idea, make a story out of it. And that's very much what you're doing in task 1. You're given a scenario and you have to try and make up the backstory. What I would say is just make sure that you respond to each prompt so like there are 3 prompts, write 1 paragraph for each prompt. In the first sentence of each paragraph, make sure that you respond directly to the prompt. So, if it says something like, apologize for your mistake, in the first sentence, say, I'm very sorry for making this mistake. Don't get to that at the end of the paragraph. Do it at the beginning. And then just develop it with whatever additional information feels appropriate. But yeah, it is very much creative writing for task 1 in general training, which isn't the case for the other parts of the test. Hi, Vidya. Getting ready for the test from Nepal. Great. Welcome. Good to see you here. Jasleen. If question does not ask for opinion, is it important or not important to give opinion? If you haven't been asked, don't give your opinion. Only do it if you've been asked. Okay, Kulwant. Satija, sir, in speaking test part 2, we have different questions under that. I want to develop each and every question, or can I give answers directly for some questions and then develop specific few questions as much as I can? Okay, so what Satija is saying is in Ielts speaking part 2, you're given a topic like describe a time you went to like a lake, or describe a time where you saw the sea, something like that. And then you're given prompts like, when did you go? Who did you go with? How did you get there? But those prompts, they're just ideas for you to talk about. It doesn't matter if you discuss them. If you discuss none of them, that's okay. All of them, okay. Some of them, that's okay. That doesn't matter. What's important is that you're discussing the topic that you've been given to discuss. And then what you say about that topic is completely up to you. So the prompts are only to give you further ideas about the types of things you can say. You can ignore them if you want. That's no problem. Yeah. So the other thing then is like with the topic, sometimes students will run out of things to say and they'll change the topic, but you can't do that. Just make sure that you stay on topic, and that's really the important thing. And, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. There's no task achievement in speaking. So if you aren't discussing the topic, that's a problem for your fluency and coherence, but there's no task achievement. So it isn't like, did you discuss every prompt? There's no task achievement score. So that's not an issue. Please, sir, make videos on task 2. Yep, definitely. I haven't made any videos in a while. I've been busy. I've been moving house. Things have been a bit hectic, but I should have time to start making more videos again sometime soon. I have plenty already. If you haven't seen them, you can check those out too. Jatinder, just go to my, you're on YouTube, so just go to my YouTube channel, and then on the home page, you'll see a bunch of playlists There's one for task 2. So you can check that out if you haven't already. Abab from Bangladesh, welcome. Good to see you here. Chatinder, writing task 2. Yep, no problem. Prashant, how to indirectly conclude those questions? I'm not sure what questions you mean, Prashant. But there's no need to discreetly or indirectly conclude anything. Like the only conclusion you need is in writing task 2. Besides that, you don't need any conclusions. So are you, let's go, you're probably, you're referring to your question about part 3, speaking part 3. You don't need to conclude. You don't need to conclude your answers. That's not necessary. You can just stop speaking once you've finished. I want to give my speaking test now to you. Please send a link directly. We are not doing speaking today. Today is just a Q&A. If you want to purchase a practice speaking test, you can find those on my website. I'll send you a link for those. If that's what you mean. Last week, the live stream was on speaking. So I had a link where people could come and join me live, but we're not doing that today. We'll do it again for sure. But in the meantime, if you want one-on-one corrections or you need more support, you'll find that there. Enjoy English learning. Sir, is it true that reading becomes tougher than earlier? Yeah, so passage 1 is the easiest and passage 3 is the most difficult. So it gets more difficult as you go through the test. Yep, that's definitely true. Multiple choice questions, yeah, that's usually a problem. But like I said earlier, just try reading the questions instead of reading all of the options, and that will reduce how much time you need to get ready. You'll be more prepared. How to improve score in reading? I think like the strategy that I've seen a lot of students improve their scores a lot, where you read one paragraph at a time. So instead of going one question at a time, you go one paragraph at a time. So look at the first paragraph and then look at all 13 questions, answer whichever ones you can. So that, but also, like we talked about earlier, eventually, it'll be down to might be your reading skills. If you very rarely read in English, it might be that you just don't have that ability, or more likely it's your vocabulary that you can't understand what you're reading. Conclusion, should we write opinion first or points? I'll normally just do it in the same order as the question. So do you agree or disagree? I agree because A and B, and I'll put it in the same order in the conclusion. Or, what are the advantages and disadvantages? I'll say, what the advantages are and what the disadvantages are. I normally just keep them in the same order as the question. Do you know what though? It's not that important. As long as you've included the information that you need to include, that will get the job done. So that what's more important is that you don't forget to include something. Main problem is when I think of ideas, my mind goes lack of it and takes so much time just for generating and expanding it. Yeah, but I mean, it's probably because, you don't often have to do that. It could be a new skill. It could be that, it's a skill that you haven't developed yet. From what I can tell, it seems to be, a lot of it seems to be down to, what country you're from and whether you were required to do that type of thing a lot in your schools. So, for some countries, they find it very easy because they've been doing it since they were kids. For some countries, but for some nationalities, and then for other nationalities, it's very difficult because, it's not a skill that's practiced at school. So they're doing it for the first time. And it just takes time. It just takes time. But like I said, make sure that your ideas are relevant and specific. If you can do that, the generating ideas will come with practice. the removing the irrelevant and removing the vague ideas, that's the big thing. That's the big thing to focus on. What is the right approach to do a list of headings in a reading module? So like I just said, go through each paragraph one at a time. Read the paragraph. There's no need to skim and scan. So you read the paragraph, you know what it's about, and then you find the appropriate heading. If the headings seem the same to you, that's because you don't have the vocabulary to tell them apart. And if that happens, just guess. You have no choice but to guess. But don't spend 5 minutes deciding, don't spend 5 minutes making your guess. Like if you need to guess, just do it and move on. Don't lose a lot of time. Hi, Mosa. Good to see you back here. May I follow any format or writing or speaking test? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you give me more information about that, Habab? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. Hey, Gurvinder. All good, all good. Thank you. Vijay. Hi, sir. From Japan. I want to do IELTS within 2 months, but I am a little bit worried about grammar. What is the best way to improve grammar and vocab? Again, if you go to, so you're on Facebook, go to my Facebook page and go to the video section. And again, there is a task 2 playlist. You'll see videos all about how to improve vocab, how to improve grammar. Then if you're doing academic IELTS, there's a section in task 1, which is really helpful. There's a playlist for task 1 on my Facebook page that goes through all the typical vocab and grammar that you will need for graphs and charts. So I'd recommend learning that too. Zoro. One time I read a piece of information that said, if someone an IELTS examiner, nobody can know, or you shouldn't say that he is an IELTS examiner. So how could you can say that about yourself? Because I am no longer an IELTS examiner. But that is true. When you're IELTS examining, you're not allowed to say you're an examiner. So that is 100% correct. But I'm not an IELTS examiner, so I don't need to say it. I was an IELTS examiner. I can say that. But when you're IELTS examining, you're not supposed to say it. Yep, that's correct. Sathija, and I want to know while I'm speaking if I feel I did some grammatical problems and I wanted to consider that one and recorrect that one. Usually I don't do it, but I feel it's resulted to reduce my score. Yeah, so it depends it depends about your strengths. So if you've got really good fluency, I would recommend you don't correct your grammar mistakes because you're going to bring down your fluency. However, if you've really good grammar, I'd recommend that you do correct your grammar mistakes because you will keep your accuracy up and you'll get a higher grammar score. So it depends on which one you feel is better. If you feel you're better at fluency, don't correct them. If you feel you're better at grammar, then do correct them. That's my advice for that. Enjoy English learning. Do adding idioms and connectors like moreover, apart from this, and many more increase score in speaking? No. Those, yes and no, sorry. You do need to use discourse markers and connectors, but you need to use the ones that are suitable for the IELTS speaking test, like saying things like moreover. That's what we would write in the writing task 2 answer. So that's like an academic formal type of cohesive device. But we generally don't say that when we're speaking. So when we're speaking, you might say like, what's more? And another thing is those types of informal cohesive devices. So yes, you need to use them, but not the ones that you've suggested. They're kind of, you should have different cohesive devices for speaking and for writing, because one is formal and one is informal. I couldn't sign into your link last time. Tried a lot to give free speaking test. Okay, so just I have My free content is for groups. So like I said, my free live feedback lessons, you can sign up with that link. It's in the video description if you're looking for that. And then the live streams are, I have a different topic each week and I just cycled through them. So speaking was last week, so there'll be another speaking one in about another 3 or 4 weeks. There'll be another speaking live stream. Sir, how and where to find writer's view in reading? Well, that will only be for yes, no, not given questions. That's the only time you need to look at the writer's view. And it basically is just what the person says. So it's much the same as true, false, not given. It doesn't, when you're answering the questions, it's in no way different from doing a true, false, not given. Yes, no, not given. It's the exact same. If you find the information, it's a yes. If you find that the information is wrong, that's a no. And if you can't find the information, that's a not given. So it's the exact same format. What you do is the exact same for yes, no, not given, and true, false, not given. It's a, you don't need to worry about the fact that you're looking for an opinion rather than a fact. It looks and feels the exact same when you're answering them. So here, I am struggling to generate ideas, making stories. Okay, so we looked at that already. Jesseline, and also how to find the title of reading passage because all options are too close. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. That's a vocab problem, and IELTS intentionally writes those questions like that so that they can really find out like what score you should get to find the difference between like an 8 or an 8.5 or a 9. So they have to make some questions very challenging. That's the point. And if you don't know, just guess quickly, don't guess slowly. That's my advice. And obviously improve your vocab if you're not getting the score you need because of that. Is it necessary to have a speaking partner to skill at English speaking? If so, then how can individual proceed that if he or she doesn't get so? No, you don't need a speaking partner. So if you're improving your speaking, you have to consider what aspect of speaking are you working on? Are you improving your vocab, your grammar, your pronunciation, or your fluency? If you just practice speaking, that will improve your fluency. It doesn't matter if someone's listening to you. It's the process of thinking of what to say and saying it, like it's exercising that muscle. But speaking doesn't improve your vocab. Studying vocab improves your vocab. The same for grammar and same for pronunciation. So you need to work on them individually, and you don't need a speaking partner, although it's more enjoyable if you have one, but it's not necessary. So here, I'm struggling to generate ideas, making story. Oh, sorry, we've looked at that already. How can we improve our vocabulary for reading? Will you make a video on it in the future? It's the exact same as improving your vocabulary for speaking or improving your vocabulary for writing. You find the vocab you want to learn and then you sit down and you learn it. It's no different. The fact that you're doing it for reading is not different from doing it for any other part of the test. Good morning, sir, from Nigeria. Hello to you. Welcome. Which IELTS is easy to take? IDP or British Council exam? Some speculate IDP exam is easy. No, they're the exact same. It's got nothing to do with it. Basically, it's like IELTS. Cambridge makes the tests, and then they give them to IDP and British Council. So both tests, they're the same test. They're being made by Cambridge, so they're not different. It's like if you buy a can of Coca-Cola in one shop and you buy a can of Coca-Cola in the other shop, it's the same thing. You're getting them in different places. And it's the same with the IELTS test. Cambridge is making them, so they're not different they're not different depending on the test center. The only difference with the test centers is the quality of the equipment. And it's not that IDP is always better or British Council is always better. I've had students who've gone to tests and the sound quality is awful for the listening. And that has happened in British Council, that has happened in IDP. So it depends on that. And then it depends on the group of people working there. You'll find some centers have really nice people, and some centers you'll find a few rude people, but that's just people are people. That's nothing to do with IDP or British Council. You might find a rude person in either one. So there's no difference. The truth is there's no difference. I would say whichever one has the test date that suits you best, that's the one to go for. Or maybe, if you prefer paper-based or computer-based, and whichever one has the one you want on the date you want, choose that one. But it's none of them, neither of them are easier. That's not true. Is it good to go partially agree or disagree in to what extent you agree or disagree? Because sometimes point for one idea is only one. No, it's more easier to make significant mistakes when you partially agree. Just go with completely agree or completely disagree. That's just an easier essay to write. Cool. How to improve vocab. Okay, so I've had a few of you ask about how to improve vocab today. So let me just pull up my vocab strategy from my website and I'll share it with you in the comments. Just one moment now. Okay, you'll find this on my website anyway, but if you go to the comments, I'm just sharing a link, so it'll bring you straight there. So a few of you have asked about vocab. Here's a link, vocab improvement strategy. Find that in the comments, click on the link, and it'll bring you straight there. Okay. Hello, Facebook user. Prashant, you're very welcome. Ramalia, welcome to the lesson. Maybe it sounds odd, but in your opinion, would be a good IELTS score an accurate reflection of English knowledge? I'll take IELTS only by myself. Esteem in terms of English proficiency. Well, there are two parts of it. You need to know how to do the IELTS test as well. So you can get a bad IELTS score if your English is good. That's possible. You cannot get a good IELTS score if your English is bad, but you can get a bad IELTS score if your English is good. You see it quite a bit where, like, especially with people traveling to people who want to live in Australia, you get extra points towards your visa if you do the IELTS test. So you'll get people from, the UK, Canada, South Africa, native English speakers doing the IELTS test to get extra points towards their Australian visa. And they end up getting like 7.5 and stuff like that in writing. And the problem is they don't know how to do the test. You need to know how to do the test. You need to have the English, but you also need to you need to know how to do the test. So it's a combination of both. I like to compare it to, because like some people say it's unfair, but I mean, all tests are like that. Like I don't know if it's the same in every country, but like in my country, when you're doing the driving test, you have to hold a steering wheel, like that. You can't hold a steering wheel like that. You can't hold a steering wheel like that. You can't turn like that. You have to hold the steering wheel the way they say to turn to hold the steering wheel. So even if you can drive, you can fail the driving test. Even if you're a very good driver, you can fail the driving test. So it's the same with the IELTS. It's the same with the IELTS test. You need to have the ability, but you also need to know what to do in the test. Prashant, you're very welcome. Okay, let me make sure I get through everyone's questions, so I'll just start going a little bit faster here. Jasleen, sir, some we find answers in Phillips in reading and answer it also correct, but sometimes answer is only one word, and in instructions they say 3 words. How? No, it says no more than 3 words. So that doesn't mean no less than 3 words. It means no more. So if it says no more than 3 words, it can be 1 or 2 or 3 words, but not 4, because it says no more than. So don't confuse no more than with no less than. I think that's where you're going wrong. Navpreet from Punjab, hello to you, welcome. Office work. It is important to add your ideas in thesis lines. If we don't write ideas in it, in which section of the writing will our score suffer from? Is it possible for me to obtain 8 in writing with something? Coherence and cohesion, because it's about how your paragraphs are connected to one another. So you're creating a connection between your paragraphs by putting it in there. So for a good coherence and cohesion score, you can put your main ideas into your thesis. If you're looking for a low score, if you need like a band 6, something like that, you'll be okay without putting your ideas in the introduction. How to become a fast reader? Read more often. Put your finger on the book. So like when you're reading, if this is the book, put your finger under the line. Let your finger guide you. That will help you read faster. And don't move your lips. You know, a lot of people when they're reading, if you move your lips like that when you're reading, that will slow you down. You should be able to read faster than you can speak. So if you're moving your lips, you're hitting the ceiling at which you can read. The speed at which you can read, the ceiling is how fast you can speak. So don't move your lips. If you do that, follow your finger if you're not doing that, and read a lot. Okay, so I think I answered that already. We're saying focus on fluency if that's your best band score, focus on grammar if that's your best band score. B. Winkle, how to become fast reader. Is B. Winkle and office work the same person? Perhaps. Gurwinder, sir, is it good to write one wording in thesis rather than copy paste of other thesis lines? It's better to be unique. If you write something like, we see this a lot in Ielts, candidates will write a thesis line, something like, this is a very interesting topic, and I intend to delve deeply into it and come up with conclusions, which I will, blah, 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 this type of generic thing that you can write without even reading the question. But it's memorized, and the examiner knows it's memorized, and it's not helping your vocab score. It's helping nothing. The examiner knows you've learned that in advance, and it won't contribute to improving your score. Hi, Farzana from Bangladesh. My exam date for speaking is on the 6th of October next week, and the rest on the 8th of October for UKBI General Ielts. How will I prepare for these few days? Well, it depends how much you've done already. If you're starting at the very start, just make sure you understand how the test works and what you need to do. If you've been preparing for months, then just make sure to review everything, make sure you don't forget anything before your test. You're not going to improve your vocab in 2 weeks. You're not going to improve your vocab score in 2 weeks. So don't worry about that. Just focus more on how to do the test and practice doing it. A lot of students will go into the IELTS test and they'll have never written a task 1 and a task 2 essay in an hour. So, you've got to write task 1 in 20 minutes and task 2 in 40 minutes, and students will practice that. But in the test, you've got to do both of them in 1 hour. And very often students will never have done that before their real IELTS test. So make sure you've done that. Make sure you've prepared for what you're really going to be doing in the test. How to improve reading. So Arsh, again, it's just about figuring out what you're doing wrong. Why are you getting answers incorrect? Are you not reading the instructions properly? Well, then you need to be more careful with the instructions. Are you rushing yourself? Well, then you need to slow down. Are you you don't understand the text because you don't have the vocab? Well, then you need to improve your vocab. So it always depends on your unique situation. So you'll need to first figure out where you're going wrong, and with that information, that will generally show you what you need to do differently. So do a practice test, analyze every incorrect answer, and figure out why you ended up with the incorrect answer. That's what to do. Could you please make a video on reading vocabulary? There isn't any vocab for reading. There's English vocabulary. That's all there is. So if you need to improve your vocab for the reading test, you're just improving your vocab. That it's just that. There's no specific thing you would do because you're improving it for reading. You wouldn't do it differently if you were doing it for reading or for speaking or writing or listening. It's, improving vocab is just, it is what it is. Hey, B. Winkle, how to improve fluency? You just need to practice speaking. That's it. Like, the more you speak, the better your fluency gets. And Preet, hi sir, how do we remind the question while doing reading? Paragraph. And whenever I do reading, I take enough time to find question in each paragraph. So like I was saying, just read one paragraph at a time and then look at all the questions. So read paragraph 1, look at all 13 questions, answer whichever ones you can. Read paragraph 2, look at the remaining questions. So like there were 13, maybe you answered one already. Look at the remaining 12. Read paragraph 3, look at whatever's left, answer whichever ones you can. It's by far the easiest way to do it. In the case of advantages outweigh disadvantages, if the disadvantages outweigh, then that paragraph should be in the conclusion, before conclusion, or follow pattern advice. It doesn't really matter. To be very honest, it doesn't matter. As long as you are answering the question and giving your ideas to support your answer, that's fine. Which comes first and which comes last isn't actually a consideration. It's not a big problem. So whatever is most comfortable for you, whatever you like best. Okay, guys, we have 9 minutes left. I'm not sure if I'm going to get through every question. I will try, but let's just, and I mean, let's just hurry up. I'm talking to myself. I need to hurry up. In the practice test of Ielts Advantage, do they provide with the mistakes that I do or not after purchasing the course? You'll have to talk to Ielts Advantage about that. But they'll tell you. I mean, I'm sure they will give you that information. But I do not work there anymore, so I am the wrong person to ask about that. Sir, are you an Ielts examiner? What you check in writing? As you are an Ielts examiner, what do you check? I would check for task achievement, coherence and cohesion, vocab, and grammar. Exactly like the band descriptors. That's all we're looking for. I'm struggling with speaking fluency. What can I do to improve? You need to practice speaking more. If your fluency isn't as good as you need it to be, it's because you haven't spoken English enough. It's as simple as that. You need to practice speaking in English more. Afzal, hello to you. We're just about finished here. So that's what's up at the moment. So how to focus on reading. Follow a strategy. So learn a strategy first, do a practice test, and then look at all your mistakes and figure out why you got them wrong. That's the basics. Which IELTS exam can I take for UK visa? You'll have to ask the immigration office. I don't have that information. Sir, is there any bribe to pass the test? No, there is not. Jocelyn, how to write thesis and task response and advantage disadvantages. Take a look at my website. You'll find all that under the task 2 heading. Hello, Heen. When I'm writing a topic, I'm confused how to have an idea in writing. So we talked about this earlier on, but you need to practice planning essays more. That's what you need to do. If you're not able to generate ideas, it's because you haven't spent enough time developing that skill. From the time when the something resulting in the something will comma be used before the word thereby. Whoa, this is very confusing. From the time when the something thereby, I can barely process that. I don't understand why there are gaps. It looks like a gap fill that you're doing. I'm not sure, B. Winkle. I'm not sure about that. Farzana, you're very welcome. Cambridge course is enough for preparation. I'm not sure what the Cambridge course is, Danine. Anonymous Dev. Why do IELTS trainers keep saying that memorization in speaking is a bad idea? I personally found it's helpful because if you copy the language from native speakers, memorizing full answers is the problem. So what you'll find some students do is they will find a question. So like, let's say the question is, what's your favorite color? And they'll write down an answer and they'll memorize the answer. So they're not learning English, they're memorizing answers. And that's what the trainers are advising you not to do. Laura, Amber, sir, sometimes we use had for past and sometimes for verb. I'm confused about it. Maybe you're talking about passive structures. I'm not sure what exactly you mean. I'd need to see examples of what you're referring to. Is it important to use idioms? Do not use idioms in speaking. That will not help your score. Sir, what should I do to increase my memory retention to prevent my vocab from falling? Review. Review. You have to review. Yeah, lots of review. And then try to use the language too. Any tips for writing task 2? What to include and what to not? Yep. Take a look at my YouTube page and take a look at the task 2 lessons that you'll find there. Plenty of advice. How to improve ideas. So we discussed that already. Just practice planning essays many, many times. How to manage time and reading. Make sure you can get the score you require first. And then once you can get, like if you need a band 7.5, make sure you can get that score with as much time as you need. And then after that, just reduce. So do many, many tests and reduce the time gradually. Cambridge IELTS books, sir. I'm not sure what that question is. Cambridge books. They're enough for reading and listening if you can focus on your problems and figure out. So the Cambridge IELTS books are enough for reading and listening if you can figure out what you're doing wrong and, you know, avoid repeating those mistakes. B. Winkle, you're very welcome. Okay. Do Cambridge books are enough? Okay, so we looked at that. Sir, can we personal example in task 2? Yep, you can use personal examples. That's no problem. Domenico, another problem I have is that I can easily write out long, complex sentences in English, but I'm struggling to use the words that I used within my phrases. Not sure what that means, sorry. I don't want to memorize my phrases because it doesn't help me build up my fluency. You can memorize phrases. It's okay. Like that's a good thing to do. That's a good thing to do. But that's improving your vocab. That's not about fluency. So it's don't memorize full answers is the problem. Memorizing phrases is a very good way to improve your vocab. Sean Chan, why should we start preparing for IELTS only once we've reached level B2? No idea. It depends what score you need, Sean. It depends what IELTS score you need. You know, if you need a lower score, then you wouldn't need to do that. I had done work. I had a headache. I had completed my work. Okay, so I think you're looking at perfect tenses. You're looking at like maybe past perfect versus past simple. So that's what you need to look at. Look at those two tenses. Okay, I have 2 more and then we're going to finish up here. Sean, why should we start preparing? Okay, we looked at that. Domenico, you're very welcome. How to initiate task 2 body paragraph. A topic sentence. Say which idea, what the topic of the sentence, I'm going tongue-tied. Say what the topic of the paragraph is about. If that's your main idea, put your main idea in the first sentence. Okay, so we got through them all. Like I said, I have live feedback lessons tomorrow. Click on the link in the description if you want to join me there. And I'll be back with another live stream this time next week. So take care of yourselves. Talk to you next time. Best of luck in your tests for any of you who have a test coming up. And again, make sure to share complete test success with anyone you know doing the IELTS test. Okay, bye-bye for now. Talk to you again.